All right, all right, all right. I am back, and we are ready to go again. And this time we are going to be doing my personal favorite, the Cpanel. Now, the Cpanel will have to be broken up into different, different groups. So my plan is for the Cpanel, we will do an overview of the Cpanel, and then what I'm going to do is a FTP tutorial on the cPanel as a standalone, so people don't have to go through the entire cPanel spiel in order to get the FTP situation. So what we're gonna start here is we're gonna go to my account again. We're gonna go to the 9 squares to set the top of the GoDaddy account like we always do, and we're gonna go to hosting in WordPress. All right, so from here, I have an active cPanel, which is my developer cPanel. So we see it has the cPanel box. I am currently using the deluxe web hosting with cPanel, and that is because I do not run WordPress on my cPanel. I only run the HTML sites right now. I don't think there's a WordPress in here, so we're gonna go settings after we click the 3 dots. And we have GoDaddy notifications up here. So let's go ahead and close out that stuff. All right, so this is what we have. So this is the entrance to the cPanel. The cPanel admin is a different monster, and we're going to go in there in a second. But this is our most pertinent information, so we're going to go over this real quick. Provisioning out of cPanel is just the same way as provisioning out of WordPress. Both of them are relatively easy, and like for the most part, after you've purchased the server, you're just going to be clicking a setup button. I do think that is a very easy task. If someone does want like a really quick video on that, I may create something like that in there, but it's something relatively easy to do. So inside of our cPanel dashboard, this is what we have. So we'll start at the top and then work our way down. So at the very top, like always, we're always trying to navigate from the top if possible, because the top always has what we need, right? So we have the Phpmyadmin. We're familiar with that. We just saw that in the managed WordPress system. This is only going to be if you have databases. I don't currently have databases running in this. We have the file manager, we have the FTP manager, and we have the backups, and we have the analytics. Now, I've never used analytics, don't really care about GoDaddy Analytics. I'm more concerned with my own analytics through Google. So let's start here. So we don't need to go into the Phpmyadmin because it looks exactly the same as the WordPress. You know what? Let's do it, because in case you didn't watch the WordPress video, we'll pop in real quick. All right, so this is the Phpmyadmin, and this is basically what it looks like. There's not a whole lot in here. I just uploaded this database is for the app that I'm creating. That'll come out later. You might see some information on it on my channel. But this is all that's in here. Input, export, all of this stuff I'll cover when I'm doing like a WordPress migration, because WordPress databases are probably the easiest way to demonstrate how to import, export into Phpmyadmin. So as you can see, Phpmyadmin is a standalone. One thing to kind of keep in mind on with GoDaddy is certain things, when you open them, will open a new tab. So you can always just close this tab and wham, I'm back on the hosting page. The next is our file manager. So we're going to click and go into the file manager, because the file manager is super important. All right, so file manager on cPanel, and this is where things are going to get very, very important for you, because this whole course is going to be about you guys being able to upload into the cPanel and get your websites launched. So I'm going to spend a little bit more detail here, and then I'll spend detail as well when I'm doing the actual FTP upload on this particular page. So what we have here is our home directory. So the home directory just contains absolutely everything for the website. Now, just a quick note. You should not be deleting or adding anything to the home directory itself. Like, the average person should not be messing with this. If you're messing with this, then you know more than I do. and you wouldn't be taking this particular course or watching this particular video. Do not add or install anything into your home directory. We don't want that. That's bad juju. What we do want is we want this file, this folder, the public_HTML. Now, generally what I tell people with the public_HTML is you come down to it, you can click it and expand it out. And as you can see, my two different versions of my different websites here. So I have my blog and then I have my dev site. So we can see both of these here. And what I'm going to do is click directly on the public_HTML folder. So what we're seeing right now is my two websites. So one thing to know about this particular folder, or the way that the cPanel works. So I'm going to jump back here. donaldm.dev is the primary website on this hosting, or the primary domain on this hosting. So when I jump into the file manager, those files show up as the root files on the server. Now, you can actually make it cleaner and do redirects or index files or something like that in order to not have files just kind of sitting out here like I do. I just choose not to do it. Some people do. That's a more advanced thing. I won't show you how to do that. I'm just more interested in you being able to get your files onto the server, because that's what most developers need. When we're getting to more into the advanced stuff, maybe I'll make an advanced course down the road. But for this, we're just showing you how this works. So donaldm.dev is the primary files here on the cPanel, and these are what shows up on the internet. So that's very, very important. Any files that you put into this on this root that's not inside of a subdomain or an actual secondary domain will show up under donald.m. So that's very, very, very important. And then we have, these are additional domains or subdomains that are on my server. These are my test domains, basically. These are where I come when I'm testing different variations of a website that I want to launch. I just create a subdomain and then I launch it from there. So if I open that, we have the files for my app, which I am deploying on this particular server at some point when I am finished building out well, I'm not deploying the app itself, I'm deploying the launch page on this particular server. So we can see the assets and everything in there, and then the same thing for the blog version. We see all of our assets. So that's very important. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna leave this open. I'm gonna go back to the public_HTML. Now you can navigate through here. As you can see, there's a lot of different options in here. We can add a file, which will allow us to literally create a file on the server, which we can then open up and edit. So we'll create, hold on, let's put in a file name. So let's go testing me, and we want this to be .html. It's going to create in a public_HTML, and we see it here. So there's nothing on it. So we have the option to download the file, view the file, edit the file, HTML edit the file. Now this is very important because, and this comes into play with malware and other things, the server itself does have a code compiler on it, or it does work like you can actually write code on the server, which if malware gets in, it allows malware to kind of reproduce itself because it can actually write the code. So this is very important. I generally don't use the HTML edit unless there's like a customer on the line, and while we don't generally do it, sometimes I'll make an exception if it's something that's very simple to do. So I'm just going to delete that file because at no point do you want unused files on your server. That draws in malware. So we can create a folder, which, like I said, this is all the exact same thing. So let's create a folder, and we're going to do what's this. Now, folders have to be linked to. So if you create a folder, nothing happens here. There's nothing in it. So I'm going to create a folder and put a file in it called testingme.html. Create. So now I have a folder with a file. So here we go. and it does absolutely nothing. So what I'm going to do is show you folder. I'm going to move the folder to, let's move it to the CSS folder here. So when we click the move option, we type in the direct path we want and we go move. So the folder's gone. Voila, the folder's in here. So let's delete this because I don't want this stuff on my server. So let's go ahead and completely remove this server. And that's how we remove file. That's how we move files and stuff around. We select them, we right click, we move, and we type in the directory that we want the file to go to. So easy day with that. Upload is the same way. We select our file off our computer and then we do the upload. It will upload it to the directory. Now, pro tip, if you don't have an FTP client, one way to do it is I'm going to select file and I'm going to go to desktop and I have this zip. So you can zip your files into this. Boom, zip, upload it, put that in the public underscore HTML. I can come in here and I'm going to create a new folder. I don't actually know what's in that for zip. We're going to create a new folder. We're going to call it testing zip. .html. I mean, well, it's a folder, so we don't need to give it a thing. So I just put it there. I'm going to go click, move, / testing zip, move files, going here and extract. So we're going to extract those files there, which is just another copy of my website. So easy day. So now we can see, like, if we have a zipped website, we can easily bypass FTP, come into the server, click the upload button, and then upload that zip to the server. That way, the chances of you losing files are relatively slim. So that is an absolutely easy day, and you can do that with single files. Any type of files, you can just upload those guys right directly onto the server. Easy day. So that is predominantly what we have. We have our delete, permissions, view, compress if we want to compress things down, but we're not going to really go into that. But what I do want to show you is the settings. So over here on settings, we have show hidden files. Again, so GoDaddy always has this off by default. You need to click this on in order to see your htaccess files. And sometimes your WP config files are hidden by it. It's not often, but it's usually going to be like your htaccess files and stuff like that. So it's incredibly important. So now that we have a good grasp from the file manager, let's go ahead down here and take a look at the FTP. So here we go. Account settings, and then we have our primary domain, our cPanel login, our cPanel password, and then our plan. So this stuff is pretty important because this is the cPanel login. You can give this to a developer in some cases if they want to log directly into the cPanel. You can also use this as your primary FTP. But one thing to keep in mind is you do not know the password. The password is automatically generated. So you would have to come in, generate a new password, and then change that password in order to know. So I'll go through that again because I kind of talk fast. If you want to use this as your primary root FTP, you will generally not know this password. So this is the username. This is the username that you'll put in FileZilla or whatever you want to use. You have to change the password, generate or type in a new password, and then change the password to whatever you want. And then that'll be your password. So that is an easy day. So once again, you can use this as your primary FTP. Then we want to click here and we have our server information. So I am running PHP 7.4, which is perfectly fine for me because I'm not actually using PHP. I'm running HTML sites. So just like with the managed WordPress, you can click this and change your PHP versions. It has the exact same effect as it has on managed WordPress. And then we have our IP address here that I can use to connect up my domains, as well as this is the host IP address for FTP, which we will go into in the next lesson. And then we have here our SSH. We can always toggle this on and off. I always leave my SSH off. because I don't generally use SSH on my servers. One thing to kind of keep in mind with Cpanel, if you're not going through SSH, it is using FTP, so File Transfer Protocol, not SFTP, FTP, which is going to be port 21. Port 21. So username, password, hosting IP, port 21 are going to be your primary FTP stuff there. So another easy day for us there. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So here we don't have a whole lot of stuff going on, just our SSL services. And once again, they want me to purchase security. I do highly recommend it, but I'm not going into it on this one. So just beware of the Action Center. The Action Center on both the managed WordPress system and this system here. And the reason I'm saying that is because it will tell you to upgrade, or it'll tell you that it'll give you some sort of alerts. Do not automatically push this stuff. GoDaddy is not looking at your site specifically and say this is okay for you to do. Do not automatically push it. You have to always make sure that the website is going to work before you click on any of these automated things. I'm not a fan of them. Simply because, yes, it's easy for me to see, but I'm trained, so I know to look over here. There's no reason for me to be looking at your Action Center. So that's an easy day for us right there. So we're going to go ahead and jump to the Ftp Manager. So Ftp Manager is real easy. I'm going to do a brief overview, but we're going to come in here when I actually do FTP. So login is going to be the login that you want to create here. So say info at, then it'll be donaldm.dev. I'll create a username and password, and then the directory. So the directory is where you want the website to be, which we'll go over in a second. But right now we're not going to deal with that. I'm going to take you through the whole process of adding an add-on domain, then creating an FTP on it, and then using that FTP to upload a file in there. So this is going to be a very brief overview. The one that I actually do that in is going to be very detailed because that's a process in its own. This is just an overarching view of the cPanel. I'm not even really showing you cPanel navigation at this point. We're just going through that top part list there, which at this point we have successfully completed because we're not going to go into the backups and we're not going to go into the analytics. Well, let's click on the backups button real quick and see what happens, because in most cases you want to be relying on external backups, not server backups. And the reason we want to rely on those backups instead of server backups is if in the event that you accidentally reset or delete your server, those backups are gone. So you always want to use external backups. So this has basically been just the hosting dashboard of the cPanel, just kind of breaking that down for you. I'm going to cut it off here. Our next step is going to be the Phpmyadmin button. That is where we're going to go in, and I'm not going to go into super details on this simply because it's massive. But I will give you a brief overview of the cPanel. We may be able to install a WordPress. I'll show you how I can kind of show you guys how to do that real quick. Because that's easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then maybe say for instance I'll create a subdomain and we'll install WordPress to it. I'll create an FTP to it and everything like that. That'll be an easy day. And then we'll probably upload like a file to it using FileZilla. So that might be a longer video, but I am going to cut it here. When we pick up, we will be picking up at the Phpmyadmin. We have just covered the hosting dashboard, which as you can tell, most of these videos are about 20 minutes. There's a lot of information here. So it's really hard to break this stuff down step by step. And then last but not least, and we'll cover this again in the next one, is these websites here. You don't want to be clicking add websites. It's just don't do it from here. I'll show you where to do that next. At this point, you just kind of look at this as a list of websites, and I'll show you more functionality in a second. So I'm gonna cut here, and I will see you guys in part 5 of the series. See you then.